On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, we are closing in on a week since the Avalanche traded away Mikko Rantanen, and people are still talking about it around the hockey world. One thing that they are talking about recently is, should the Avalanche have consulted with Nathan MacKinnon that they were thinking about dealing Mikko? We'll get our take on that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. If you want to get in on the conversation, make sure you sign up for our subtext. The link to that is in the show notes below. When you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, like we will do here in a little bit when we get some subtext feedback on that very question that I threw up at the on the opening. We also will get to the not Utah Yetis. Is it a trivial conversation? Absolutely. But it's a fun conversation. So we're going to talk about that. And we're almost to February. So we will take a look at a truncated February schedule due to the Four Nations tournament. We'll just see what the Avalanche have in store for February. So where we're going to start, like I said at the top, it's almost a week now. Friday will be a week when the trade for Mikko Rantanen to Carolina went down. It's still just a hot topic, understandably so. It's just one of those blockbuster moves that's going to be talked about for quite a while. And there's different aspects to it. And the thing that, a lot of different things pop up in this deal, and should this have happened, or why wasn't your team involved in the trade? So I love it. I love it that like so many different talking points come out of this. One thing that has been getting brought up that I've heard around the circles of because you see interviews, and especially with Nathan MacKinnon, he's been, I don't know if he's been vocal about it, because it's not like he's going out of his way to talk about the trade. He's being asked about it a lot, but he's answering those questions. He's not shying away from it. And, he, like everybody else, was surprised, was shocked, did not see this coming. So you have some people asking, he is your superstar. He's one of your superstars. He's, one of, if not the best player in the league. And he had no idea. Some people feel like that wasn't the right way to go for the Avalanche, the office, the people in the front office. And they feel like he should have been in or go to him. What is your take? Like, this is what we're thinking of doing. He should have had some inclusion, had some say in it. And other people feel like, no, that's not his place. He gets paid to play, win us games, and go make your money. Where do you fall in this, Mr. Von Doom? Because I think it's an interesting conversation.
I think it's, whenever I see those comments, I kind of chuckle a little bit. Nathan MacKinnon, all respect in the world for Nathan MacKinnon and what he does. He should have no say in Mikko Rantanen being traded, and no say in what the front office does. Nathan MacKinnon is paid to score goals. He hasn't done that in 3 games, by the way. But
don't start that.
He is paid to score goals, make this team better, and win games. Mm-hmm. He's got to make whatever team they put on the ice better by his talent. You don't if you're going to consult him, say, hey, have you talked to Mikko about signing that deal? That would have been my question. Say, hey, we're really at a standstill. Can you get him? Can you just work on that for us? I'm not going to go with hey, Vancouver's calling. They have JT Miller. Would you be okay if we trade Mikko? And then Nathan MacKinnon goes, oh, gee, golly, maybe. What's the AAV? Do you think he's asking about AAV? And what's the long term? What are we getting in return? No. He doesn't even want the captaincy. What do you think he wants to do with anything in the front office? Nathan MacKinnon, for everything he is, and I know the internal cap for the Avalanche is kind of set at his number, but you ask him questions, he doesn't want to talk about them. So what makes you think he wants to answer questions from McFarland? Because the first time you're going to be like, hey, should we trade Mikko? No. Why are you asking me that? That's going to be your response from Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah, I don't think the inclusion of him would have been the deep financials of it. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's not going to care. And I don't even know. Well, this is it's so difficult to answer because I can see both sides of it. But I don't, for this particular transaction, I don't think it's necessary to go to Nathan MacKinnon for it. Number one, because it's in the middle of a season. You know what I mean? Like, his focus is on going out there, getting ready for the next game, going out there and winning the next game. It's not on transactions, and it's not off season. Maybe, yeah, they did it before with Drew N. You know, they go to him like, do you want to bring this guy in? Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit for this team. I think you do go to players for kind of roster moves and say, like, do you think this would be a good fit in how we play? Happens all the time. Is it the end all, like, be all? No. But in this instance, I don't think, just for this one, just for the Mikko thing, I think it's just not good timing to do it. You know, when you have a mid-season trade of this magnitude, to go to him, if you were to go to him and be like, hey, we're thinking about trading Mikko, what's your take on it? Now that's in his head and not the next game. And now he knows that. And it was a shock to Mikko too. So Mikko Rantanen doesn't know that. That's not really fair to put that on Nathan MacKinnon to be like, hey, we're cluing you in on, we might trade your buddy and, you know, one of our superstars. It's not happened yet. It's in the works. We're talking about it. That's not a fair thing to lay on Nathan MacKinnon, because now that's just more things that he's got to work. And now that if he knew that, could happen any day, and you're living with that every single day. So I think from that aspect, it wouldn't really make sense. But like I said, if this went to the offseason, if they kept Mikko Rantanen for the duration of the season and it went into the offseason, I do think that the front office would have gone to MacKinnon and be like, hey, like, you know, it's an option now. We kept them for the whole season. We're at a stalemate. Yeah, I think you're right with the, hey, you want to go talk to him? I'm sure they've had conversations anyway about it. But if it's the offseason and there's no games to be played, this is a deal that we have on the table. What do you think? But it's not going to be just because Nathan MacKinnon says, in all likelihood, no, I don't want you to trade Mikko Rantanen, then the Avalanche is going to be like, okay, all bets are off. We're not going to make the deal. They still probably would have made the deal, but I think they just go to him out of courtesy and just say, like, hey, this might happen.
Okay,
not in the middle of the season.
Let me throw it to you this way, because I understand, like, bringing players in. It's something like, hey, do you think he's going to work here? And then you ask the team, like, you ask players on the team, is there something you can, like, Drew in? Like, yeah, he would work. He would work. Mm-hmm. Sure. You would ask that question on, like, you scout him all day long, but how does it work with the team? You would ask. But when it comes to players going out, right, like, nothing stays secret in this league. Like, not even draft picks. Like, when draft order, like, you lose your job for that. Like, it's all these, there's so many leaks and reporters everywhere. You don't ask your player, hey, should we trade him? One, what kind of front office is that? Two, what kind of burden is that? Three, there is no such thing as a one-on-one conversation in the world of sports, because the walls have ears, and that will be on every dirt sheet. And guess what? Do you think, let me ask you this, everybody who is listening right now, do you think they went to Nathan MacKinnon and said, I don't think Georgie's cutting it. Do you think we should trade him?
Right.
Do you think we should trade Juice? Do you think they run to him for everything? Because what is Nathan MacKinnon going to do? What is he? Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's go get Mackenzie Blackwood. I've been scouting him. I haven't been, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris McFarland. Thank you very much. No, none of that happens. Front office does front office things. Nate MacKinnon does Nate MacKinnon things.
You're right in that. And they're not going to Nathan MacKinnon for any move that they make. I think it's a little bit different when it comes to Mikko Rantanen. It is his, it's his line mate. Those two have worked together for a decade. They know each other inside out. But your point is very well taken. Like players play, front office does front office. And while those two things can overlap from time to time, I think the timing, just being in the middle of the season, is not when you bring a player in to say, hey, what do you think of this? Because then if it doesn't work out, then he knows part of the inner workings. And I don't really feel like he's supposed to at that point in the season. Off season, sure. Get players involved in potential moves. I don't mind that. But I just think it's too much of a weight to put on a player for him to have knowledge of a huge blockbuster deal, and the player that's involved doesn't. That's a good friend of his. Again, it's just not right.
And see, let's all play the role. Let's role play here. A little Dungeons and Dragons for everybody. Let's just say McFarland corners MacKinnon, says, "Hey, do you think we should trade Mikko? He's not signing a deal." He's like, "Oh no, man, don't ask me that. That's your job." McFarland walks away. Cale Makar's like, "Hey, what's that about?" Or Mikko comes up to him and say, "Hey, what was that about?" What if Nate's like, he just asked if we should trade Mikko? Right. Like, what are you doing to a locker room? What kind of boneheaded decision is that? You don't do things like that at all. That's why it needs to come as a surprise. Like, I am very sure they said, "Hey, is Mikko going to sign anything? Has he talked to you about signing a deal with us?" And Nate's probably like, "Man, ask him. Ask his agent. That's not me. I'm not a money guy." That's your response. And then you're wasting your time and your energy.
And I'm going to get to subtext people here in a minute, but why just Nathan MacKinnon? I mean, we love.
I'd go to Taze
or Landeskog.
Oh, true.
Gabe Landeskog's still part of this team. He's not on the ice, but he's still your captain.
He's got to be doing something,
right? So I do want to get to some subtext people because it's interesting. So we have Lisa. She says no. I jumped into this conversation on socials when people suggested GMs should discuss big trades with players, particularly star players. At the end of the day, this is a business and players are the employees. When businesses decide to lay off workers, I certainly don't ask employees if they are okay with it. At best, you might get a heads up. Layoffs are coming. Yeah, it sucks. But the professional athletes, you always know this situation is possible.
Lisa brings up a great point. It's the professional part of the athletes that we forget about all the time.
Brandon says, I do, because I would have talked to him, Makar, and Landeskog. He doesn't go further than that. I'd like to know why, though. I would have liked to gotten more out of him. Just why? Like, if you feel that way, fine. But like you're saying, like, I think there's more to it than just saying, like, yeah, I'm going to them. Is during the season you're okay with it? Obviously, you're listening to us. I don't feel like that is. Off season, a little bit more open to it. So, Vargar says, absolutely. I think Mac and Makar are your guys. Also the captain, even though he's not playing, like we were just saying. It's a huge move. Like you said, McFarland seemed to make his mind up, valuing depth over a star. Agree or disagree, but you need to consult your guys. I think twice about Colorado. If I was a UFA, they played this like Vegas would have. Oh, Vargar.
Hold on, Vargar. I would much rather have Chris McFarland take the fall for this than poison your locker room forever, knowing that if you go to Colorado, you have to get the blessings of Makar and MacKinnon just to stay. I would much rather have McFarland's replaceable. Makar, MacKinnon, the rest of that team. It's hard when you lose a locker room. Look at Vancouver. When you lose a locker room over splits and drama and divides, it's hard to get that back. And that's the stigma Vancouver has. And it's why nobody's wanting a trade because of the pieces involved. You're going to ruin Colorado on making any kind of deals. Like you love to say Sakic fleeces people with his deals. You will close that door forever, and Colorado will be Vancouver.
I don't think that scares away UFAs at all. This is a different animal. This deal that people know. Hey, Mikko's asking for a lot. Avalanche couldn't swing it. I don't think a UFA is going to come in here and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that because they wouldn't pony up $14 million for a guy. I don't think this deters UFAs at all. And let's make that the last time we compare how the Avalanche do business with how Vegas does business.
Yeah.
Please. And Madam Battleaxe says, nope, this is a business decision. Unless MacKinnon was going to give up some of his money, he's not in the front office. This franchise needs to stop seeing the Avs as Nathan MacKinnon and some other guys on skates. No one player should have that much say in the operations of the organization. Just my thought. I think that's a valid point.
Just look at the Lakers.
Yeah, great analogy right there. Yeah, I mean, what do you get? Again, it's not going to change. If the front office is going to Nathan MacKinnon saying, hey, we're thinking about trading Mikko Rantanen, they're thinking about trading Mikko Rantanen. If they go to Nathan MacKinnon and he's going to say no, that's not going to change the mind of the front office. They're not going to now say like, okay, I guess pay Mikko and we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. I get it, but it's just not how these things work. I think the Drouin thing is kind of how you go to a player. We're thinking about bringing him in. Do you like that fit? Or if you are thinking of trading this, in the offseason, this is who we're bringing in. Do you think that would be a good fit? It's a tough discussion. I do understand where people are coming from that say you should talk to them, but Lisa said it. They're the employees. They are. So, all right. We're going to look at the February schedule. It's a short one, but what do we think for this Avalanche team in the month of February? In the month of February, with a Four Nations tournament right in the middle of it. So here from Game Time. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. You ever attended a NFL playoff game, Mr. Von Doom?
I have. I don't think I've ever attended an NFL game.
Really? I've never attended a playoff game, and I'm almost hesitant to, because I would just hate to see my team lose in person during an NFL playoff game. That would just be dejection that I don't know if I can handle.
Yeah, I'm not good at picking NFL teams. So.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you want to use Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming NFL playoff game, by all means, use Game Time. Browsing through the deals is simple. You find great value for all kinds of seats around the venue, and the Super Deal was especially impressive. It offers the best value for the event, and that features seat views before you buy, all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout, and it makes your experience smooth and reliable. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gives you peace of mind. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, the February schedule is right around the corner. Moving right along here with the NHL season, and the Four Nations tournament obviously is in the middle of it. We'll be talking about that in the next week or so, because it seems like the rosters are not finalized yet. I think keeps revolving. Players are backing out. More guys are getting added, so we'll see where that goes. But let's take a look at the Avs February schedule, and yeah, there's not a lot there because you have that big block right in the middle. That's all of it. It fits all on one screen. If you're watching on YouTube, the Blues game is behind us. We'll hide the Blues.
Yep.
We don't need to see the Blues, but
we're doing you a service.
But there you go. So on the 2nd is where things start off at home against Philly, which I don't think you've played them yet, have you?
I think we've gone down to Philly once.
Did we go to Philly once?
Yes, I believe that was back in December.
Wow, not that long ago. I can't remember it. So then you're on the road for 3 games in Vancouver, in Calgary. It's a back-to-back with Calgary and Edmonton. And then there's your break. And then you continue on the road. So the Avalanche are going to be on the road for 2 straight weeks. No, you're on the road for another back-to-back. You come back and go to a back-to-back. Another road back-to-back. I'm just looking at this for the first time. Right before the break, you're on a road back-to-back, and then right after the break, you're on a road back-to-back. What did the Avalanche do to deserve this? A back-to-back and the Predators and the Blues, a couple days off, and then you finish off the month, 2 games at home, the Devils and the Wild. What do you think?
All right, the Avalanche did not do themselves any favors. We talk about the points that they need for stretches of the schedule like this. You can look at the route. You got the St. Louis Blues game on Friday, and then you got the rest of February. You got Philly, Vancouver, back-to-back Calgary, and Edmonton. This is your first, I guess, would be your benchmark. You're going to be evaluated here because the Avalanche are in a kind of a rough spot. You are 10 points ahead of the Blues in the Central, so you have a little bit of a gap, but you're fighting for your playoff life. You're just like 4 points away from that cutoff mark, and you can't go win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And the schedule's not doing you any favors with a road back-to-back, take a break, come back to NHL action, road back-to-back.
Yeah.
So you have to start winning these games, and these teams are scrappy. Like, even though Philly is actually a better team. Vancouver, it's a lot of issues in Vancouver, but they could still win games. Calgary's starting to believe in themselves a little bit. Like, they're putting together something that's winnable. They can win games. Edmonton, you know what's there. That's a long road before the break.
Yeah, the Vancouver, you just seem to struggle against them.
Yep.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if they don't match up well or whatever the case may be, but they just seem to struggle against Vancouver. So, I mean, there's your Canadian road trip up there. Yeah, Calgary's playing a little bit better, but I think they're going to be up for that game. And, of course, Edmonton. You don't get any division games here till the end of the month where you get 3 of them. So that's not, I mean, that's a good stretch right there where you can put some distance between you, the Predators, and the Blues. And then we'll see where Minnesota is at that time to finish up the month, because Kirill Kaprizov is going to be out for about a month. So he might be back for that game. We don't know yet, obviously, but where will Minnesota be? I mean, it good for them to lose it for 2 of those weeks. You're not playing. So I'm sure that was a calculated move to do this surgery for him during the time when you're off, so he misses as few games as possible. But either he is going to come back right around that game, or he's going to miss that game and come back maybe the next game or a few games later, whatever the case may be. Even if he does come back for that game, it might be one of his first games back. And where are the Minnesota Wild in the standings at that point? Because they're struggling a little bit to really, I mean, they're like the Avalanche where they're winning, losing, but they're staying afloat. They're ahead of the Avs right now. So I think that's a game, at least for the month of February, that I'd be circling, the last one of the month.
Yeah, because currently, as time of recording, the Minnesota Wild have 64 points. That puts them 3rd in the Central. The Colorado Avalanche 4th in the Central with 60 points. That's 13 points behind the Winnipeg Jets, but 10 ahead of 5th, and that's the St. Louis Blues. So whatever you do, you want to make up some ground in that first week before the Four Nations tournament, and you better get every point you can against Nashville and St. Louis if you want to jump Minnesota when you play them.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a quick month. We'll see. And there's obviously some difficult games in there and division games, so it'll go quick. And a Four Nations tournament in the middle of it all. So they still got another game left in January, though. So, yeah, that's February. Within the roster building, and let's get rid of that. What the Avalanche said that they're going to do after the Mikko move and look at some depth. You're seeing names on the waiver wire, and it seems like all former Avalanche players have hit the waiver over the past couple days. You had Abe Kubel, who went on waivers. He did clear. You had Brandon Saad, who went on waivers. He also cleared, but something very interesting is happening with him. We'll get to that in a second. And Philip Grubauer on the Seattle Kraken. Like, we all know how that
part of my quarter century team.
Man, yeah, right. They put him up on waivers too. That has not gone well for him.
He's 5-15.
Man. The Saad one is interesting because he cleared waivers, and now apparently they are talking about not buying him out, just terminating his contract. I don't think they're using the term terminating. There's something that it's going to be off the books for the Blues, and he doesn't get any money from what's left, and he's leaving a lot of money on the table to do this. He's basically like negotiating to cancel his contract and then just become an immediate free agent and start fresh. I didn't think anyone was going to pick him up off the waiver wire because of his number. He was a 4.5 AAV, and for what he's giving you, that is not worth it. But at a modest, hey, here's $1 million, come play for us. I think that might entice some teams to get a veteran guy that knows his role on a depth line. And if the Avalanche are saying we're not deep enough, is Brandon Saad a guy you take a look at? You're familiar with him. He's not going to give you, he'll give you some good defensive moments. His offense is gone. I don't know. I don't know if this is what the Avalanche do.
No, you can't, because everything is going to be held to that scale of Mikko Rantanen. Like, you did this big move, and this is what you bring in here. Nature's been great. Drew's been good. You're going to say Brandon Saad, this is what we did all this for. This is the depth. No, this if you're going to bring, he's a shell of his former self. Like, I know he had a hat trick back in January or December,
a couple weeks ago.
He's not the same Brandon Saad.
I wonder how much of it is just system, though. Like, it could be that. It really, like, there's times where guys go to a team, like, what's happening in Nashville right now?
Well,
like, those guys didn't just forget how to play.
The current state of the Colorado Avalanche, do you want to spend $1 million to figure it out, or do you want to have another, okay, this isn't working out, I wish we didn't do that? You need, with the cap space you have and where you're sitting in the Central and fighting for your playoff life, you don't want to take on an experiment, a revitalization project. You want a surefire, like, this will be the answer for our depth.
But I don't think you're going to get that from the waiver. Like, I've never been big on picking up guys off waivers. Like, they're on waivers for a reason. They're on waivers because they're really not working out for that team.
They should have kept Belmar if they wanted a cheap answer for depth. Because
yeah, I mean, that's not a bad point. But I just think, his age, and he couldn't keep up. Saad can. I think Saad can. And again, he's not the answer. Like, you're not going to say, like, oh, we're getting deeper on just one move. Like, depth players, you make multiple moves to fill out your depth lines, right? Is he it? I don't know. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. Are the Avalanche thinking about it? Hey, now that he's a free agent, you can pay him relatively cheap, and he's a veteran and he's familiar with the system. Maybe it's something that they do take a look at. I don't know.
16 points in 43 games.
But you're not getting him for that. You're not getting him to, like, to put up huge numbers. You're getting him for, defensive purposes, to go out there, disrupt a shift, keep the puck in the zone, turn it over to the top line. Like, that's his role at this stage in the game. I get, you look at anybody's numbers. I get it. Anybody, like, you want to see. So what were they again? 14 points, you said?
No, he's got 16 points, 7 goals. 9 assists in 43 games this year. But when you're looking at the Avs forwards top to bottom, I'm comfortable with who they have top to bottom.
What's Logan O'Connor got for points this year?
We'll go to Logan O'Connor.
Mm-hmm.
But Logan O'Connor, what he could provide, while I'm pulling that up on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Logan O'Connor could provide shorthanded, and he already knows the system, and they know.
That's my point. That's my point. Like, what Logan O'Connor can give you, like, yeah, he has the ability to score, sure, but he's out there. He's a disruptor. He's great on the penalty kill. Like,
he's got 14 points,
and we all love Logan O'Connor.
We sure do, and I would take him over Brandon Saad every day of the week.
Right. So I'm just saying, if we're going to hone in on the point thing, Saad's got more points than he does, but that's not that. I'm just saying that doesn't to tell the whole story of what points for depth guys do. But I don't think the Avalanche are in that world right now of, like, hey, we got rid of Mikko Rantanen. We now our purpose now is to, if we want to fill up, like, our depth players, you're not going to do that by getting waiver guys. It's not the world that they're in. So you might see moves, but this is a different one. It's a different one for Saad. And again, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be any shock to me that it doesn't happen. but I would almost guarantee that they're at least considering it at a relatively cheap number. So we shall see, sir. All right, let's. You're looking up something. I know
I'm looking at Brandon Saad stats, and I'm
Okay.
just not overly thrilled.
All right, I've always liked him. I've always liked the guy. So, all right, we are going to talk. We're going to finish up the show. The Utah Yeti, can't call them that because they got denied. We'll talk about that. All right, is this a trivial thing? You darn right it is, and that's why we did it in the third segment and didn't lead the show with this because in the grand scheme of it, it's not all that important, but for the Avalanche world and Avs Nation, it kind of is. I think some people didn't really want Utah to go the route of the Utah Yeti, and it seemed like it was. They were going to do that. And then they got declined by the the trademark bureau or whatever it is, who said, no, you cannot do that because there's going to be too much confusion. And then between them and the brand Yeti, the cooler brand Yeti, and it could have happened if that brand Yeti said, okay, we'll agree to this and we can kind of like share this trademark, but they said no. So that brand Yeti, we love the brand Yeti because they have prevented Utah from using that name. And for the Avalanche world, I'm happy for you guys. If it turned out where Utah got the name, okay, good for you. But it was kind of funny that now that so that's off the table. And now another one that it might be is Mammoth, which also belongs to a Colorado sports team. So what do you think of this though? Is it, should the Yeti brand have opened up to it, or no? Like that's ours and you're not having it.
Well, I did.
As I drink out of my Yeti cup.
Well, I did while I was in college. I did study some trademark law, and Yeti does have a point.
Yeah,
this comes down to you Google Yeti, you don't want your searches popping in hockey teams because then your buyers will be like, well, whatever, and then they will go somewhere else. So that's just what Yeti's doing there. Honestly, Utah Yeti and like the names they have left over, I'd say scrap it, do it again. You guys could do so much better, and Utah Hockey Club's still up there as an option. Let's not keep that. It's really hard to get the proper nomenclature for like good goal. I can't wait to be part of the hockey club. Like, doesn't sound good. At least you don't have to see them rehashing the Yeti foot that belongs in Colorado and should be on our jerseys currently. But that's good. I'm glad they're not getting that name. And they honestly should have listened to the room and said, you know what? I don't want that over our brand new franchise already mired in like some rivalry and some pettiness. I would have gone somewhere fresh.
And it kind of like an Avalanche fans, like, they kind of feel like they have a right to it, but nothing in the Avalanche as far as like names go had Yeti on it, which is the foot.
But it is an alternate that belongs in New Jersey Devils history because the Rockies lineage goes through the New Jersey Devils. So
right, but I get why the Avalanche fans have latched on to the Yeti and the Yeti foot, and they just feel like there is some ownership to it and this side of the hockey world, and I think they felt a little bit slighted that the Utah wanted to come in and kind of like make that their team nickname. So it is kind of a little bit cause of celebration that they can't, even though the Avalanche right now don't use the Yeti foot at all. But it still opens
Howler,
it up
though.
Oh God, no, that's not going to happen. But it does leave it open for a return of it at some point, and then there's no confusion between the Avalanche and what could have been the Utah Yeti. So it's still the Avs. They can use that foot. They don't have to use the word Yeti. They've never done it in the past. So they still have more rights to it in a way than Utah ever will. So I think I like how the Avalanche use it is creative because, hey, here's the foot. You know what it means. You can say the word. We can't put it on anything, but you can. and it's still under the Avalanche umbrella. So I'm happy because I know there's a lot of Avs fans that were upset that it was probably going the way of Utah, and it's not anymore. And we have a cooler company to thank for that.
Yeah, and North Carolina ripped it off too. Just put
it's a different one. They got
the tar on the heel.
They got the foot. Yep, they do. So I'm happy about it.
But finally, the Avalanche win.
Yeah, that is. It's not goalie interference; it's logo interference that we're calling.
We'll take the point on that one.
Yes. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. Anything else that happens in the world of Avs Nation, we'll be talking about it right here. So he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and you guys are 24 hours closer where Sidney Crosby is that much closer to being a Colorado Avalanche wearing the Yeti foot.